Diving into the Great Barrier Reef was nothing but breathtaking, and Port Douglas is the best takeoff point to the outer reefs. We were lucky enough to be only a few minutes away from the wharf point where all the boats dock and take off. One of the companies we joined was an award-winning company, Quicksilver. Most tours run around the $240 to $250 mark, and they usually include a buffet lunch and snorkeling gear. Extras like underwater cameras and diving gear can be paid separately. Quicksilver was a perfect intro for us snorkeling newbies. It was big enough to set out to sea despite the weather, but it didn't stop the big waves giving us a shaky ride to the platoon, where the activities took place at Agincourt Reef. After having a buffet lunch, we donned our stinger suits, flippers and snorkeling masks to begin our snorkeling adventure. Other than snorkeling, there were plenty of other things to do on the platoon, such as going on a 15-minute semi-submersible to watch the reef go by in a dry enclosed submarine. And exploring the underwater observatory. Because we missed out on the Daintree rainforest due to the weather and flooding, we decided to take another snorkeling trip with Calypso that took us to 3 separate sites in the outer reef, meaning more footage of corals and fishes. Despite the coral bleaching happening in various spots, I think I was lucky to witness the corals before the bleaching takes hold of the entire reef. Our drive to Cairns was luckily a sunny one, although it was a brief stopover to go to Fitzroy Island. The city is a lot busier compared to Port Douglas, with a pretty neat free public pool by the beach. It was also hard not to notice the amount of fruit bats that inhabit the city. We departed in the afternoon on the Fitzroy flight to Fitzroy Island, which took us 45 minutes. The weather was again not doing too great, but good enough to still explore the area. It's a popular place to do water activities along the beach, sit back with a drink or two, and observe some of the wildlife. We only had half a day there, so we spent the time trekking to Nudie Beach, a more secluded beach separate from the main one. And instead of sand, the beach was littered with dead coral pieces. The journey to and back from Nudie Beach takes about 45 minutes, and the walk trail is a bit of a hike through the rainforest, so be sure to have comfy shoes. also did some kayaking before we left the island, which was quite an experience since my partner and I had little to no experience with kayaking at all. But coming to Fitzroy Island, there's no reason why we shouldn't do some form of water activity. Unfortunately, we missed out on the Turtle Conservatory tour, so that would have to be another time. Now, I can't end the video without talking about the food places we tried. Cafe Fresca in Port Douglas was a nice breakfast place to go to, and I noticed a lot of local customers also enjoying their mornings in Cafe Fresca. I couldn't help but try the pancakes that came with syrup and chocolate sauce, topped with ice cream and cookie pieces. To balance that off, we ordered the big breakfast platter, and my personal favourite was the mushrooms and fried potato cakes. Definitely a very filling and yummy meal. By the wharf, there's a brewery restaurant called Hemingways, and I recommend this place to go to for beer lovers. The restaurant itself has a nice view of the wharf, probably looking much better than what's shown here if the weather was sunnier. We ordered the beer tasting paddle that had 5 types of beers plus a mystery one they offered. My favourite one was the Pitchfork Betty No. 5, which was a full flavoured pale ale that had a nice fruity aftertaste. The chicken pizza did not disappoint, which had a soft and crispy base and drizzled with a spicy Hemingway barbecue sauce. The chicken wings were also heavily coated with a salty, spicy Hemingway sauce as well. Back in town, there's a popular Spanish restaurant called Sea Bean. To start off our meal, we had some pinchos, which are small light snacks. On the left is the seafood croqueta with a very creamy center mixed with scallops, and on the right is a piece of toasted sourdough topped with creamy ricotta, salty ham, and a piece of sweet nectarine. Next we had the mackerel tapas, and you cannot leave Sea Bean without trying the tapas. They were much larger than I anticipated them to be, and the mackerel meat was quite a lot with a lightly deep fried outer layer, eating together with the vegetables and a light sour sauce wrapped in a soft tortilla. The main meal was the seafood paella, which was filled with fresh seafood, mussels and prawns. As dessert, we picked the signature dish, which was the creme brulee served in a coconut. A knife was given to us so that we can carve out the coconut meat and eat it with the creamy and rich filling. I think after that I cannot have creme brulee without mixing in with coconut. In Cairns we didn't try as much restaurants unfortunately, but we picked a Japanese joint called Matsuri. Despite a higher price menu, the giant bento box I got was extremely worth it. And before long, it was time for us to fly back home. Despite the rotten weather, I was still able to do the majority of the activities I had planned to do, particularly snorkeling at the Great Barrier Reef. We still got to visit the beach, did some shopping, explored the rainforest, and at least got some sunny days out of it. All in all, I had a very fun time up in Cairns, and it's one of the few places I would definitely return to. Was it always this dark, or am I just starting to black out? Okay.